Hello, welcome back. My name's Grandmaster Daniel Gormally. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I'm recording from Guernsey. Just arrived in Guernsey. Spent a couple of days here already. Yesterday. I went to um, Pembroke Bay, which is on the north side of the island. And you see from here, apparently this island that you can see in the distance is Alderney. So initially, when I posted it, I said, "Is it Herm in the background?" Very ancient looking place. So I think there's a few islands close to Guernsey, but somebody pointed out, the organizer actually pointed out that it was Alderney, which apparently is about 20 odd miles from the island. So it doesn't look like 20 miles, but it's quite a long way. But that has to be Alderney because from Pembroke Bay, apparently the only island directly to the north is Alderney. So it has to be Alderney. But yeah, beautiful place. Guernsey as well, of course, but Guernsey's far more populated. Alderney is quite a small place. There's only about 2,000 residents. Apparently, their economy is struggling slightly, and they're dependent on Guernsey. And the other island, of course, in Channel Islands, which is very populated, is Jersey, which is the largest island. And yeah, it's kind of a beautiful place. So Guernsey, Jersey, I recommend a visit, even if you don't play the chess tournament. I'm playing the chess tournament. Last night I played a blitz, so just quickly show the game. I was playing against Keith Arkell in round three. So it's me, Harry Grieve, Keith Arkell. I think I was the top seed on FIDE Blitz. But I think they seeded it on FIDE Classical. I think because I think Harry's lower rated than me at Blitz, and I think Keith is lower rated. So Keith was a third seed or second seed, depending on what ratings you use. But I think he might have been third seed anyway. But he ended up winning the tournament on tiebreak because we all scored 8 out of 9. We drew with each other. But Keith had slightly better tiebreak because the opponents he played scored more points. But I think it shouldn't have been done on tiebreak. It should have just been shared. But because we're not playing in England, they often use a continental system. You know, Guernsey is quite close to France. In France, they use tiebreaks. It's fine. I don't really mind. So in theory, I finished third. I kind of felt like I finished joint first, but yeah, I mean, it seems a bit crazy when we got 8 out of 9 and we just basically hoovered everybody up. But yeah, I'll show you the game that I had against Keith. Quite an interesting game, and I'm not sure about the move order. Whether we castled first, or I know that we got some kind of position like this. And thinking about it now, I'm surprised I didn't go B4 because that looks more in a spirited position. Like B3 is a bit wet. But we lead to kind of a typical position you can get from a what's the opening they're called Collet system possibly. I think Hebden plays this kind of stuff with White. Not sure about Knight F1 whether that's the best move. Knight G3, but he played quite a good plan. I thought Keith G6 and Bishop G7. This is quite a good plan in this system to reroute the bishop. Maybe you could have thought about Bishop H6 here as well. And then force through, because if the rook comes back to E2, then it takes on F3. So I'm actually forced to go back, thinking about it now. Obviously, I've not analysed this game with a computer, so I don't really know. He went Bishop D7, which is consistent with the plan. And that, well, now actually here, Bishop H6 is already looking like winning the exchange. Yeah, was typical blunder you're going to get in Blitz. So this is already quite bad. Yeah, if you found Bishop H6, I think I put the queen. I should have put the queen on E1, right? But even then, Bishop H6, you're forced to go back to E2, and they take on F3. But it's kind of, yeah, he went like rook E7, and then I went D5, and I think here again, maybe I was expecting him to bring the rook to E8. Maybe that was better because taking on E6 is not necessarily that bad for black. He went E5, which then I went knight D4. So Bishop H6 here would probably walk into knight F5, right? And he went A6. So this is where I thought, right, let's just get on with it. It's blitz. Whether I'd play this in a real game, I don't know. Well, probably by this point I would, because obviously we've already seen if you go back to f3, there's problems with bishop h6. So I think this is correct sacrifice. I don't know how the computer would evaluate this position, but I've got two pawns. So I've got a pawn for the piece, but the attack is clearly quite dangerous, especially in a blitz game. I actually thought he might go bishop f8 here, check, and then king h8. And then how do you get? You'd like to get the queen to g8, but the knight is covering that square. Knight is a very good defensive piece. I probably would have gone queen e3 to g5. And to some extent, black's pieces are cut off because the bishop is where the knight would like to be. So it's not so easy for black. Like, yeah, something like queen e3 and might actually be very dangerous. So I think he probably played the correct move, which was knight f8. Now again, yeah, other possibilities here. Maybe I could have played f4 immediately, not even bother. Thinking about it now, possibly f4 here was very strong. But I went rook g3. And I went, we'll check it later with an engine, see if there's anything big that we both missed. Bishop c8. Yeah, the other possible defense was h5. But when I was thinking about this position earlier, I thought actually maybe queen c2 was interesting. And the idea is to take on g7 and then smash through on g6, which at the moment is defended. But once the queen goes to c2, quite dangerous. There's another move possibly is queen. I mean, the problem is that black's threatening bishop c8 and then take. And then once it removes a knight, a lot of the attacking chances are gone. If I take on e7, then the position's very solid for black. So I probably would have tried queen c2, but obviously I think in a proper game I would have tried queen c2. In a blitz game, I probably wouldn't have had time to see queen c2. I probably would have played something else. So queen c2, I think is quite a decent move. And yeah, I think white has good attacking chances, at least maybe even winning. So he played bishop c8, which giving me back the piece. I took. Wasn't particularly worried about knight f4 because then I can do a discovered check. Actually, knight e8 to c7 is possible. Example. So I wasn't worried about knight f4. Or just move the queen is also possible. But he took. Went h5. Yeah, and then went f4. And as soon as I went f4 again, I was kind of, oh shit. You know, what if he goes check, right? And then if I go queen e3, then he takes and oh sorry, actually like here, yeah, check. As soon as I played the move, I suddenly oh hang on a minute, check. Queen f2. You can take and then take here. And maybe you can go here, I guess g5, right? And then g3, but it looks then bishop g4 maybe. Take is quite interesting. Take. Which actually is probably good for white, but seeing all this in the game is quite scary. Yeah. So I think this whole position is actually very dangerous for black now. Maybe even winning. I mean, I kind of felt like I was winning by this point. But I've already got a piece. I've already got my piece back. And clearly the attack is very strong. He went rook h8, which I thought was teeing up this queen c5, because then queen f2 has got rook h1. I thought that was his idea. Probably quite a good idea. And maybe I should have gone b4. That was the other move I considered in the game, b4. Which would have really, I think if I keep the queens on here, I think that maybe the mistake I made was swapping the queens. Because, you know, if you look from black's perspective, the problem is the king. Although maybe there's moves on h5. I mean, it's hard to say really, but then I could just move the rook. Or where do I move the rook to? I go rook f3, he's got bishop g4, right? If I take on e5, I think he just takes back. Yeah, I could take on e5 because knight g3 does take on d6, but then he moves the king. This is a problem. It's almost impossible to work all this out in a blitz game. So I took, and he took back. I went rook f3 and he went check. And again, maybe, yeah, maybe I had better moves here. Maybe I could have just gone rook f2, for example. Rook f2 might have been a better move. Because rook f2 now I'm threatening b4 with tempo. So position looking very dangerous for black, actually. Probably losing. He does, again, maybe he has knight h5, though. Knight h5, but then, yeah. Yeah, knight h5 is annoying. Because rook f3 does knight f4. But then maybe bishop e5. I don't know, f6. Yeah, just hard. Like, rook here is also possible. Knight here, then maybe I take. If I take, he still goes f6. Crazy position. You know, so I went queen e3, which was like a practical move. Went knight g4, good defensive move. Came back. F6. He said he was happy at this point in the game, but I'm not sure because I think it's a very unclear position. But it's true that he has some plan. I was afraid that he would go g5, move the king somewhere like f8, and then bring the rook up. He can't do that because the bishop is defending h7. He could maybe double rook. He could maybe put a rook on h6, bring the rook to e8, and then bring the rook to h8. And then it could be very dangerous for white because of the mating threats. So, I played b4. Yeah, maybe here he should just go rook h8, rook h6 or something. Actually, or rook h4 is another move. Because g3 does rook h3. Yeah, rook h4 is probably not. I mean, I think this is very unclear. Like c5, it takes, rook back. Looking kind of scary for white, actually. Maybe I have to go rook f3, rook h8, rook h3. But then he takes. Well, it's just completely unclear because I've still got these passes. But yeah, something like that was possible. I think by this point I've lost control. I think he played a bad move, bishop f. I understood his idea. As soon as he played it, I understood his idea was if I take with the bishop, he takes the pawn. I take with the rook, he goes king g6. And then when the rook moves, he can go rook h7. I did think about that briefly. I thought about take, rook takes, king g6, rook f3, rook h7, rook h3. But then rook takes, pawn takes, rook takes. I think he's got at least enough. He's still got a potential. I've got two connectors on the. Well, that's an interesting variation. It's worth mentioning actually. Like here. So I briefly considered this, and then something like this could happen, which is very interesting position because, for example, I could play rook c1. It's probably threatening rook g3, right? So I need to get some cover. Now, if he goes rook g3, I've got king f1. If he goes rook f3, I can maybe just go king e1, just slowly slide across. And these pawns are coming. You know, he could lock me with rook d3. Yeah, rook d3. I mean, I'd rather be black here. I don't like this position for white. I think the knight and rook work very well together. His king's marching in. You know, his pawn. It's easier to play for black in blitz. So yeah, so that was possible. But the move I really strongly considered it was just rook f5 actually, and I got this far in my calculations, and I saw knight h6, and I thought, actually, it's not so clear because if I go bishop e6, you can maybe even just take and then put the rook on e8. But bishop h3 was a move that I didn't really consider in the game. Yeah, I mean, it's still not 100% clear, but I think very dangerous position for black. You can't put a rook on c8, so I'm threatening c5, d6. If he goes knight f7, maybe just c5 anyway. I think this looks winning. Possibly he could have gone rook h4 there because if g3 does rook h3, there's no variation. So maybe rook h4 and then same idea of trying to eventually double rooks on the h file. But then d6, you know. Now some of these pawns are very quick. Like there's maybe actually rook e4 here is very strong, possibly. Oh, but it still has knight h6. Yeah, it's hard to play it, see all this in blitz, you know. Like well, rook here I could even go c5. There's another idea, like rook here and then just take. And then what's this like? Also not that clear. I go rook here, threatening c6. It's possible he might have some kind of defense here. I'm not sure what it is, but yeah, it's very borderline. It can go wrong. Like, you could bring the king right here, here, d7. Now my pawns are frozen. He might well be doing well now. My pawns are frozen. The bishop's not really in the game. So these kind of variations are very, very obscure. And, you know, there's ways to go wrong for either side. But I played bishop e2, which is kind of like a cop-out move. I was expecting him to go knight e3 there, and then knight c2. But I feel like I'm probably still doing quite well even in that variation. But yeah, for example, he could have gone knight e3, rook f3, knight c2, rook c1, bishop g4. Ah, but then rook c2, so it doesn't quite work, right? But knight e3, rook f3, knight c2, rook c1, maybe knight d4 is possible. Take, hit the bishop on e2. But then bishop f1, I should be doing quite well. I don't know. But but he went there, and then immediately sees a chance, because you see a chance to liquidate and blitz to a position where you don't feel like you can ever lose. I thought actually I was winning here, probably am, but played b5 immediately, which is a good move. And I took. Yeah, now I kind of copped out, went like bishop here, and have no winning chances anymore. So I can't remember the end of the game, but I remember him taking, and then I went to see. I mean, the games weren't recorded, so I'm just recording this from memory. But it was probably yeah. The other move we consider was c5, and if he takes, yeah, this is also possible. And then we go rook c1. I'm not sure if this is winning though, because he should better. Yeah, it might well be winning like rook c1. And then push the pawn to c7. If you have enough time, you probably see this. And it's either winning or close to winning. He's got rook d1 here, though. He's got rook d1. Yeah, rook d1, and then the opposite colour bishop's ending is probably a draw. So, yeah, if he didn't have b5, I would have won the game. But b5 was kind of an annoying move. And I think here I've considered... I think actually maybe I went rook f1. No, I took and went rook f1. I think what happened was I didn't go bishop d4, I went rook f1. And then I went here. But then I ended up losing the d pawn and it ended up being a draw. In fact, what I could do here potentially is maybe just do this. Rook here. Hit the bishop. And then when he moves the bishop, it's quite tricky. I go like here. And somehow I'm defending pawns, but he can still, yeah, it's still not convincing. He goes here. Maybe g4. But yeah, it's sort of, once he takes on a3, it's not going to be that easy for me. But maybe, yeah, because if he goes back to, say, d7, then if I go rook d3, I'm dropping g4. But otherwise, how do you defend? Maybe rook f4 is start, yeah, something like this. Rook f4, king here. Some kind of move like bishop f6, or not sure it's enough. So let's see how accurate the game was. The game requested computer analysis. See what it says. It says, wow. No, hang on. This can't be right. It's coming down a bit. I made 3 mistakes. So my average center pawn loss was 29. I had 90% accuracy. Keith had 89% accuracy. Okay, I didn't put in last moves. I don't think they were particularly interesting. So it probably would have been a similar score anyway. Yeah, I went queen e2, and this is where, yeah, as a point out, he could have gone bishop h6. So knight d4 was top move. Knight f5 was top move. f4, as I pointed out, was possibly best. Yeah, I saw this idea going h5. I think h5, actually h5, what about my queen c2? No, he has knight g4, right? Or e4. Wow, so queen c2, he could go like according to computer, because it says it could go e2. And something like rook e5 is even possible. Crazy position. So actually, the best move after h5 is, according to computer, is queen d2. There's another move suggested, right? And then white is winning. So according to computer, it's +2. Bishop c8. Yeah, so actually the best move is not to take, is to go queen f3, which is a very hard move to find, even in a proper game. I think that's a tough move to see. I don't actually understand. What is the point of queen f3? Ah, the threat on h6. Yeah, that's very nice. Yeah, and if you now you take, but this is actually a better knight to win apparently, because now I'm threatening rook f1, f4, and then yeah, so it's actually better to win the f6 knight. Very tough to see queen f3. So I took f4. He plays yeah, so I was right. Queen c5 was the best move, and actually he's saying it's just unclear. Like queen c5, queen f2, take, and then g5. Then if g3, there's rook h8, and actually black is better. Like take, rook h2, winning. Wow, yeah, crazy. Yeah, so I was lucky they didn't go queen c5. He played rook h8, which is actually we played a fairly decent. Yeah, we're playing like the top moves around about this point. Yeah, all this is quite normal. F5 is a good move. So my rook f5 was probably not quite enough. No, it felt like, yeah, it says I'm better. No, you don't take because of knight h6 and a bishop here. Knight f7, actually black is better. Or maybe it's... The idea is that maybe, like here, you can even just go rook d8. And then d6, I'm wondering if he can actually go knight d6. Like d6, can you go knight d6? It's just bad. I'm better. It says white is better. Yeah, I feel like in a practical game, especially in a blitz game, it would have been very hard to defend the position. And this is also not convincing, right? Because king g6, yeah, the computer says, oh, rook f4 is the best move. Yeah, I mean, it's very brutal in these kind of tactical games, the computer. Yeah, and actually doesn't think I'm winning this. Or yeah, b5 is top move. And I should go rook f1 and c5. So the best way to try and win is to do this. And then the crazy move, rook f6, right? Which looks completely ridiculous with the bishop on h8. So hard to see, like in blitz. But I didn't find that. And I played something quite weak. I took, and then, yeah, I went check, actually. But actually, I didn't go bishop d4. I went check. It was kind of similar, right? King there, and then I came back, and he took, and I went here. And it's just completely dead equal now. I thought he'd go rook d1, yeah. But he kind of pestered my pawns, and it ended up being a draw. Um, Actually, I think he maybe brought the bishop to f5 now to come to e4. Or something like that happened. Best of g2. But yeah, the game, it was an interesting game anyway. I thought it was worth showing. And so round one's today. Presumably I'll end up playing Keith and Harry at some point. Anyway, it's a 7 round event. Did a bit of coaching as well, which I enjoyed on the Friday. So I flew over. I didn't fly for like 17 years to a chess tournament, but I flew over from Manchester Airport because I yeah, I wanted to, try and get over this fear of flying because I should have really tried to deal with it earlier, like, 10, 15 years ago rather than. So I'd gotten over my initial fear and I was starting to travel to tournaments in like 2000, the mid 2000s, like 2004, 2005. I was flying to tournaments, but then I stopped. So I had a bad experience. In Turin, didn't enjoy that tournament. I just stopped bothering after that. Didn't really book any tournaments abroad. So kind of 15 years wasted. But hopefully, if I get over this fear, I can start playing more tournaments abroad, traveling to tournaments, maybe even taking long haul flights. And yeah, and still the future is bright, hopefully. Anyway, that was my Blitz tournament experience. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe, blah, blah, blah. And yeah, the game should be live today, round one.